Hello and welcome to the Society with Barrister Fatma Shaheen at PTV World. Now they say that there is no force more powerful than a woman who is determined to rise. If that is true, then we need to sit back and analyze the fact that what kind of an environment are we giving all those women who are actually aspiring to make it high. Having said that, on today's show, we'll generally be discussing about the changing working trends in Pakistan. How have they evolved, especially with regards to female labor participation? How has the COVID-19 pandemic the working women in Pakistan? What all is the government doing in order to empower working women? And last but not the least, what responsibility lies on us as a responsible society to ensure that we provide safe working spaces for our women? This and much more to follow on today's show, and to do that, let me introduce you to my today's panel. My first panelist for the show today is Dr. Simi Bukhari, who is an MNA of the ruling party. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahib, and welcome to the show. My second panelist for the show today is Miss Lubna Bhayat, who is a social entrepreneur. Assalamu alaikum ji, and welcome to the show.
Walaikum assalam. Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Most welcome. And via telephone line, we'll be joined by Justice Retired Nasra Iqbal Sahiba, who is a former judge of the Lahore High Court. Assalamu alaikum, madam, and welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam. Thank you.
Madam, I would like to start the show with you. You know, we've generally seen that the influence of women, especially with regards to their labor participation, both in the public and the private sector, to have grown tremendously, you know, in the past few years especially. But do you feel that, you know, whereas we now see more working women in the society today, this has also, you know, helped us to counter the socio-economic inequalities which do exist therein?
Thank you, Fatma. The question is that socio-economic equality has not yet been obtained by women, despite the fact that they have joined the workforce, because men take for granted that whatever women earn belongs to them. And I have even seen cases where they go to the office where the money is given out or the salary is given out, and they enter their power of attorney, which they obtain from the wives, more or less coercively, and withdraw the money, their salaries from the offices, and put it to use in the manner they think best. So even though women are very much there and present in the workforce, their decision-making power and their socio-economic equality is yet to be achieved by making the men fully aware of how the women are contributing towards the workforce and how they are contributing to raising the standard of living in every home.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think for this to happen, we actually maybe need to change the traditional gender roles, because I think that general perception, the gender roles as they do exist inside the house, that is exactly translated, you know, and that's exactly the way women are treated when they step out. So I think at a very deep level, we need to change that mindset. But overall, madam, you know, when you compare the working woman as she does exist today to what she was maybe when you stepped into the profession, how do you make that comparison?
In my time, when I stepped into the profession, I was quite a bit older. And young women today also, I think, although the government very strongly advertises that we are an equal opportunity employer, when it comes to the question of promotion, women are sidelined, and it's the men who are the officials at the top who are going to promote from down below, and they will always assess the men first and prioritize the promotion of women. So we have to shatter the glass ceiling to be able to go.
Right, madam, your point is noted. But Dr. Saiba, I would want you to comment on this from your own, you know, political viewpoint. A lot of times we see that, you know, a lot of women are increasingly joining the Pakistani politics. But do you feel that, you know, that this increase in numbers, whether it be more women joining politics, whether it be more women that we see in legislative body, that has also been directly proportionate to the amount of decision making, say, that they have within the political party itself?
No doubt, it's really a patriarchal society, male-dominating society, and especially in Pakistan, there is a rural and urban divide. And in the urban population, more women get a chance to enter politics. But in the rural side, you don't see anybody. Very few women come out of their homes, and especially in the primitive areas like KPK and over there, the women were not even allowed to vote, to cast their votes. But now, with the evolving this time times people they're getting more I would say emancipated. The men are more allowing their girls, their daughters and women.
And even if we see the vote bank particularly, madam, I was going through this report which suggested for that from 2013 to 2018 there's been an increase of 66% of women leaving their homes to actually go out to vote, and this is, I'm talking about the remote and the tribal areas of Pakistan. So that in itself I think speaks a lot for itself.
Yeah, and plus the Election Commission I think has made it a point that women should not sit at home during the election day, and they are allowed, they must be allowed to vote, come out and vote. And plus we have to educate more and more the girls, and when they, you know, with the education they get more empowered. They feel feeling of empowerment comes with education. Plus like our government is focusing more on inheritance laws and
harassment laws too. That
and plus the harassment laws,
and so many other, you know, women-centric laws
yeah,
too.
exactly.
And I think the positive thing now is that we also see a lot of people advocating for women's political participation. So that is something which is very heartening to see over a period of time. You see so many young females on television screens sitting there as political analysts. So I think the general notion, the general basically social activism for, you know, women to participate in politics, that in itself has increased too. But coming to you, Lubna, I think you are doing some really amazing, fantastic job in that you're getting women back into the workforce. So tell us that, you know, how do you do that? Because I understand that you have this recruitment firm where you actually help those women who've left work for a very long time get back into the workforce. So how easy or difficult is that? Because, you know, that for me, if I look at it from an objective bystander viewpoint, I think it would be a very difficult job getting somebody back who's left the workforce and then convincing the employer to actually keep them too.
Fatma, a very good question. The thing is that when we talk about women coming back to work, what I have, since I've lived most of my life outside Pakistan, and I saw these concepts being implemented very successfully. So when I came back to my country, I thought I saw 50% of the population, meaning by 100 million women who are not participating fully into the job market. The job market consists of only 20% of the so there is a lot of gender imbalance, inequality, and it is not the corporates are not 100% to blame. It is mostly our cultural value where we the traditional concept is that once a girl gets married, she has to be a mother, a wife, and lead a family, which is perfectly fine. I think there is nothing wrong.
But she can work and she can basically look after the household too.
But the thing is that the difference comes between the European society, because there too women leave job to get married and raise kids, but then they have the opportunity to work from home. They have the opportunity.
There's so many other flexible work options.
Flexible work options, and that was not a norm. So we thought that there was a vacuum that could be filled by a job portal. So we started our job portal, She Means Work, where we are encouraging mothers back to work and under the returnship program. You asked
so are you just getting them back to work, Lubna, or are you also helping them sustain themselves? Because you see that in itself is such a big challenge. You help a woman get back to work, but you have to ensure that she just stays there, because it's such a competitive world these days.
Fatma, the thing is that our model is very simple. When we talk about returnship, it's not a commitment for a job. It's a commitment to give an opportunity to a candidate, may it be a doctor, an engineer or architect, or an IT professional who wants to come back to work after a sabbatical. She comes back on a contract. So contract is with She Means Work, and she agrees to work on 40% of that particular job salary, as a stipend. So that is, in this model, the organization is very comfortable. They are not committing to a job, and yet they are testing out a candidate.
And she also meanwhile gets that job security kind of an element.
So after 2 months of working, the company has to come back to us whether they want to retain her. If they want to retain her, then she has to be on 100% salary.
Right, your point is noted, but I also wanted to add, I think that's a very safe and secure arrangement that way, because I think it's something which is safe for all the three parties. You as the recruitment firm, for the woman who's working, she gets job security, and for the employer too, they get to ensure that they have the right candidate.
She gets, for the woman who's getting the job, her CV gap is filled. She's back to work. So if she's unsuccessful in one organization, then another organization takes her.
Right, Lubna, your point is noted. But madam, coming to you, I would want you to tell us about this exemplary piece of law which has recently been passed by the government, especially when it comes to workplace harassment and, the amendments which have been passed in this regard in 2022. So tell us, what all does this law entail and what protections does it give to working women out there which weren't there before?
Well, I think these amendments are very welcome, and it is high time that they were placed in the harassment law, because women were just or dealt about harassment in shops and in offices. But what about the women working out of the house, or women working in the fields, or in any other places, even in colleges, schools? They had by implication been included, but now they are actually included. Any woman working anywhere is included in the anti-harassment laws. And I think this will definitely encourage women to come out more proactively, because men do tend to harass women. They don't like women coming into the workforce in the manner that they feel that there's competition. But the men who are at work and they have children, they encourage women that they should come out and work, but always at a level where it is discriminatory. And that is what we have to guard against.
Right, madam. And I think the positives of this law also include the fact that, the definition of harassment has been expanded, which can be, discriminatory behavior as well. It can be something like stalking somebody too. And then they've also put in place like measures where we used to see earlier, a men, or for that matter, the other party filing in a counter blast for defamation. So I think overall the piece of law is very, promising. But madam, coming to you, do you feel that, we have passed this law, your government, and the credit does go to it in that way? Do you feel we'll be able to implement it too? Do we have those, structures in place? Do you feel the employees are as aware of their rights as they should be? Do you feel the employers would take the necessary initiatives in order to implement the law?
It will definitely take some time to implement these, but our government is focused on implementing these laws. Only, passing these bills and making these policies is not enough. We have to implement them. These policies were already in some way back, they were in place, but never got implemented. And now our government and our women leaders, they have made it a point to report these some crucial issues to the CEDAW, and like this honor killing and acid. And you might have noticed that this kind of crimes have reduced quite a lot since the past few years. And
madam, I on the contrary feel the reporting of these crime has increased. I don't know whether they have decreased per se or not, but at least people, women, children, they are more vocal, and they've actually, become more, they are more confident now in reporting. Madam, on which I'll come to you, we must also talk about, the various international treaties that Pakistan has ratified, more particularly the CEDAW. In Turkey, we see that after Turkey ratified this treaty, it legislated to the fact that it gave its women the right to work and even to keep their pay to themselves, without the permission of their husbands. Moving on, following the ratification of the same treaty in Austria, we also saw that, Austria passed some very progressive maternity leave laws. So in this regard, post Pakistan's ratification of the CEDAW itself, what laws has Pakistan, promulgated? What laws has Pakistan passed in order to ensure its compliance with the treaty provisions?
Well, Pakistan has passed many laws, but it's the implementation of the law which is the most important aspect. And for implementation, we need full cooperation of the men. They have to have the full awareness of the facts, and those particular portions which have now been put in as amendments should be highlighted so that men know what women need to be awarded or what they need to be looked after. And that is the only way. I think more than anything else, it's the awareness level and the implementation level of the law which is most important.
And like you rightly so earlier pointed out, madam, I think harassment is just one angle of it. We need to consider this whole debate in a more broader context. We need to address more workplace issues that women come across, be it, equal work for equal pay and so many other issues, to which, Lubna, I would come to you and want you to add your narrative. Now, I understand the fact that you're getting, women back into the workplace, but are you also creating an enabling space for them? Because once they do get back, they have to have a conducive environment to work in. And here I'm also referring to, rural women out there, because you've also been working, empowering rural women, so to speak.
First of all, I totally agree with Justice Nasra when she said that the information should be disseminated to the men and women equally. So if men know what is the repercussions of harassing a woman or a co-worker at workplace, this is what I'm going to get into, I'm going to get into trouble. So that's a preventive measures. And for that, on our E Academy, we are developing a course for the redressal procedure and introduction to the Sexual Harassment Act 2010 and the amendments.
And I think in this regard, you must also tell us about the work that you've been doing with regards to, empowering rural women.
Yes, rural women I'm quite passionate about, because when we look into the rural women lifestyle, they are working more than the urban women. They are working actually 15 hours. They look after their children, they look after their homes, they are looking after the livestock, and then they go out on the fields, and then they work side by side with men. And obviously, the pay element that Justice Nasra just mentioned, they are not equally paid. Actually, they are marginally paid, and their work has not been accounted into the GDP of the country. So there is no measurement of how much,
at least under the harassment laws, now domestic workers get some relief.
Absolutely. So the contribution of rural women into our GDP, into our economy is never been measured. So I think this is high time that we measure their contribution to the economy, and especially, it is very important to make policies to financially empower them, give them a piece of land, give them loans, easy loans on their own names, show them how to grow organic vegetables. If they can go and do the harvesting, do the crop cutting, they can actually do that. And in this regard,
we must also talk about the fact, Lubna, empower them through education. And I think, Madam, you've also been doing this really amazing work in which you've been working to empower women. Tell us that, when we talk about bringing women in the mainstream, then we must also talk about bringing them in the political mainstream.
Okay.
How can that be done?
First of all, I would like to tell you that I came back from UK 15 years back, and when I came, I joined straight away. I joined PTI because I found that the things have been deteriorated a lot in Pakistan. I decided to do something for the downtrodden people, and plus I opened up a few skill development centers in different slum areas where I teach the young girls from the neighborhood. They come in one house, and they learn, where there's a teacher who teaches them different things like sewing and handicrafts and things like this. And now after a few months, they come out of as a very productive member of their family, and then learn a skill, and they can so economically they can help their family.
Right, Madam. And I think in this regard, when we talk about empowering women, a very important part of that is also bringing them in the mainstream. Now, we've generally been touching about the rights of women, especially in the urban cities, but what about the rights of those who are in the rural areas of Pakistan? How can we bring them in the mainstream? And from you, I'm asking this question from a political narrative.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because 70% of our population lives in the rural areas, and since I'm working in the slum areas, I go while doing the campaigns, and I've seen that the women, they don't even know what are their rights, and they are really living like below the substandard sort of life they are leading, and then their men used to treat them as they are just some commodity. So I thought of making some skill development centers in the slum areas, and I still run a free dispensary where most of the women come, and they complain. Not only they tell me about their ailments, but they always talk about their household problems. And then they also when they found that there's a good place to send their young girls who are not going to school, or they have just done O levels, metric, and then after that their father won't send them to higher education.
Right.
They don't have any resources as well. So then I've started most of the slum areas in suburban areas. I've made some houses where there are in the small rooms where they're teaching the young girls. They're learning skills like sewing and handicrafts.
So even if they are not educated, at least they have these skills to earn a living for themselves.
Exactly.
Right, Madam, your point is noted. Justice Nasra, I would want to come to you. We've recently seen Honorable Honorable Justice Aisha Malik Saiba being, elevated, rather being appointed to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, which of course is a very historic move, because this is for the first time in Pakistan's history that we see a female justice sitting in the highest court. We all see this as something very exemplary, because this will add to the quality of decision making too. But for the society at large, for Pakistani women at large, how do you see this?
Well, I think the most important aspect is that at least it has created diversity. Half the population was totally unrepresented in the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and even in the high courts, the superior courts, their representation is almost negligible. In the Lahore High Court, there were only 2 women, and after Justice Aisha's appointment to the Supreme Court, there's only 1 woman left. There are 60 spaces for judges in the Lahore High Court, so there should be at least, as CEDAW says, we should have 20 women in the Lahore High Court alone. And when there are more women in the High Court, then obviously the chances of their appointment to the Supreme Court also increase. And when there are women in the Supreme Court, they can share or have an empathy with the women litigants who come to the court, because the men don't understand what it is that the women actually require. And the other thing is that they can't call them in chambers and question them separately about the problems they may be facing. Whereas when I was a judge, if I thought the woman had a problem in articulating her problems in the court, I would call her to my chamber and I used to question her there. And she used to sometimes frankly come out with many of her grievances, which she would not like to do in the open court, even though the court is, of course, available for everyone. But, women have so many handicaps, and they don't really speak out for themselves, even if they have come to the court and they have gathered that courage to do that, and their families don't encourage them. So if there is a woman judge and everyone knows that she's going to appear before a woman judge, it makes a difference for the litigant, as well as the understanding of her problem. And I hope that there will be, in very now present time, more appointments to the Supreme Court of women. Of course, now I think the 17-member bench is complete. But out of 17, there should be at least 5 women.
Right, madam, your point is noted, but I would want you to, answer this from your own narrative, as somebody who has been in not one, in fact, several important positions of power in the corporate world. Why do we not see, many women making it right to the top, many women CEOs in MNCs and so many other, corporations and companies for that matter, regardless of the fact that, they're doing so well in their careers? So what are those impediments which stop women from going to the top?
I think it's not a problem of Pakistan alone. It's a global problem.
Right.
Because when you see across the world, there is a UN report that says that it will take 100 years to achieve gender parity. But then to speed up the process of achieving gender parity, and as Justice Saiba said, that women at the top, this is one of the way to achieve gender parity. When a woman is at the top, she is going to make policies which is suitable, more women centric, and encourage women. And this I've seen in the corporate world happening. And if you see across the world, a lot of MNCs, a lot of big groups are now headed by women. And I think this trend has to start happening in Pakistan. And we see the change with all the legislative changes that the government has brought. It's very welcoming, very heartening.
But you see, most of the laws that have been brought into place have been also by a female minister herself.
Absolutely.
So I think that in itself speaks a lot.
I think
because women are more sensitized about women issues.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you see that, one of our local bank was led by a woman, and she made huge changes, and she put the gender parity as a very important point into the JDs of the group, and that helped in that organization achieve the gender parity. So that's why it's very important to place women at the key decision-making positions.
And this is something which should hold true not only for judiciary; it should hold true for corporate corporate sector, public sector,
every sector, I think,
over,
all the
basically.
careers, you know, across the
And I think
board.
in this, women, you know, who are empowered, they have a very important responsibility to exercise that way. Women should uplift other women.
Actually, the global trend is very interesting. You know, if the G500 companies, 25 women CEO are actually contributing to the $31 trillion worth of corporate, you know, assets.
Right, and I think it's very pertinent to mention in this regard too that, you know, there were so many female heads of the government, be it in Denmark, Finland, Germany, or for that matter even New Zealand, which were actually more successful, and they were quicker to act on their feet when it came to, you know, curbing the COVID-19 pandemic, on which I would want you to, you know, address this concern that, you know, a lot of times we've seen this debate arising, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic has struck in, that, you know, it has been a double-edged sword, especially for working women. Some say that it has been a blessing, others say that, you know, it has been a curse. So what line would you take?
I would say that most of the women felt it as a blessing, because they had to work from home, and that's not a difficult, I think it's quite difficult for them, most of the women, to go out, and they face different sort of harassments, especially the verbal abuse and different sort of you know, different kinds of harassments. And plus when they get more time to stay at home, and if they are married, they get time to stay more with the children and things like this. I think they feel more relaxed at home as compared to going out in the office and face different kind of problems.
But madam, on the contrary, when you look at the other side of the coin, you know, when the employers had to choose, when women had to decide, then in some ways it has also been a curse for them, because when we see the statistics, not only in Pakistan but world over, women were much more quickly to be laid off compared to men that way. As they say that the pandemic marginalized the marginalized even more, to which I would come to you, Lubna. Would you want to add to this?
I think pandemic, as you very rightly said, that is a two-edged sword. In one way, you know, women were financially impacted by two ways. One, you know, they were laid off. There are not many professions that can be very effectively implemented online. So lots of the jobs were laid off, and especially the low income segments like nurses, like stewardesses. You know, they lost their jobs, and customer service jobs that are mostly, you know, done by women, secretaries. They couldn't work from home, so they were laid off, and they had this impact. Their husbands were laid off, so it was, you know, they were more marginalized both ways.
Right.
And then the computer literacy is not as
there
widespread.
for everybody, of course.
So they
and the
could not do
pandemic
that.
created digital divide,
and also the psychological impact, not just for the working women, but also the domesticated, you know, housewives, where husbands were forced to sit at home. They had their own, and then you know, the pandemic.
They had to look after the husband.
Absolutely.
They had to look after the children.
And it was for the first time in this world, in our generation, you know, in 100 years. So nobody knew how to cope with it.
Right.
And the psychological impact has been greater. I would say that it has actually impacted the women, because we do not have the kind of framework where we can reach out to them and extend them help. And I personally know, you know, that the stresses that the pandemic has brought in,
so many women have come out with depression, anxiety.
Absolutely.
Not only women, men too, for that matter. But since we are talking about,
but
you know,
one very good
women,
thing that I would like to appreciate is that telemedicine started in this pandemic. There were
and
lots
I think
of
the
digital,
positive thing is that a lot of
Absolutely.
women were introduced with the concept of, you know, remote working.
Absolutely,
so
remote
that is
working.
something. And then we saw so many
It's a new
online
normal.
businesses actually growing too.
Especially IT business.
Right. Right, Lubna, your point is noted. But Justice Sahiba, coming to you, I think a very important, you know, issue which we must address during the course of today's conversation is the fact that, you know, when we talk about women stepping out of their houses to work, how acceptable is this to the society, especially to the men? Do you feel that, you know, men's attitude towards working women in their households, that has also evolved over a period of time? And if so, has it evolved because of financial reasons, or has it also evolved because they personally feel that, you know, women working would actually make a difference not only for themselves but for, you know, the entire family?
The whole situation is that it is not to encourage women's right to work, it is encouraging women's responsibility to work. You see, everything has become so expensive that men expect that women will go out to work, and whatever they earn, that will come into the household, it will be subordinate to the decisions of men. So it's strictly speaking added responsibility but less right. And the other question which was just addressed about women staying at home in the pandemic, and I think more women have been laid off because they've been doing menial jobs and they've been doing secretarial jobs, and they were all laid off. And then when men and women were in a enclosed space together, women have faced more violence, I think, during this pandemic than they have elsewhere. And this violence has not been very often noted, or they have not been able to report it properly. So I think it was absolutely essential, and it is even now, because the pandemic hasn't gone away, that women, if they do work, it is recognized properly and they are counted. The main thing is, you see, we have the expression mardam shumari. When we have a census, the men are counted, the male children are counted, the female children are not even counted. And if they are not counted, of course, their work will not be counted. So it's a lack of recognition of their work, which is a patent problem that we have. And as I stated, that they don't have the facilities available to them wherever they go to work.
Right, madam, your point is noted. Lubna, how would you respond to that?
I think, when we talk about men's acceptability, that's very important. When we are talking about the statistics, if you look at the statistics, the job market is occupied 15 to 20% by female and 80% are men. So if 80% men are not supporting women empowerment through their employment, and we are nowhere. So acceptability of men, either it is whether it is for the financial reasons, whether it is for empowering their women, be it their father, be it their brother, be it their husband, be it a male counterpart, whoever it is. So, but it is very important, because 80% men have to be standing side by side by women in order to help her achieve her the goals that she is looking at, be it the promotional aspirations or monetary benefits. So if the boss is supporting a woman, obviously she'll be promoted, she will be given more salary. Similarly, it is the co-workers who help, it is the bosses who help, it is the fathers, brothers and husbands who help. So
and at the end of the day, you see, you basically let the woman go out, it's just not helping you relieve your financial stress.
The thing is, one point that I would like to say is that feminism has been miscalculated and misinterpreted. It's not men hate. Feminism is simply asking equal opportunities.
Right.
So when we talk about feminism, so we need more feminist men in the society.
We need more pro-women.
Pro-women or the feminists. As I said, this word has been totally misinterpreted.
Right.
It's not
but
men
it's good
hate.
to see that you're setting the record straight and telling everybody about the right
Yes,
definitions.
it is equal opportunity. So let's not confuse it, and let's not alienate the men who want to support the women empowerment, women gender parity and gender inclusion.
Right.
They have to be standing by us.
But Dr. Saiba, coming towards you and coming towards the conclusion of the show, what proposals would you give, rather what would your suggestions be to make the system more conducive and more accepting towards young females who do want to enter, the Pakistani politics? What are the barriers that we need to get rid of? What are the attitudes that we need to change in order to make, politics more women-centric that way?
Yeah, usually the girls, when they go out from their houses, they feel intimidated usually, and they think that it's a male kind of job to enter into the politics.
Right.
But now these days the times have changed, and we are encouraging, when I was campaigning around, I see more and more girls are more interested to work for their local level. They want to work for their surrounding the people who are suffering, like there are more problems like construction work and things like there are no health care, no education for the local level. When they come out, the men always they are the dominating part, and they would say, no, it's our job, not your job. As I started from a grassroots level, I was working from local politics, and then I went up into then went into the parliament. So I'm encouraging the young girls from grassroots level, if you have to earn some position, have to work for the society, you have to start from the grassroots level. and then it doesn't mean that you go up in as a special representative. You have to be, you can be elected, and our party is promoting more women to get into the as a candidate, to come up as a candidate for the local elections, and then as you when you win the election, you can work for the society, for your community, and you become a very constructive, you play a constructive role. So that's how you will get empowered.
Right, Dr. Sahiba, your point is noted. But coming towards you, Lubna, and coming towards the conclusion of the show, what would your advice be to all the working women out there, especially when it comes to, you know, striking that perfect balance between their work life as well as, you know, their home life? Because we do see this trend generally changing in Pakistan, where a lot of women, even after their marriage, even when they have kids, they still, you know, do opt to go back and to, you know, pursue their career.
I think my concluding remarks would be that every woman is special. Every woman is unique. And with their own attributes. It is not important whether she's educated or not educated, skilled, unskilled. I think they have to believe in themselves. They have to have the confidence in themselves that they can make a change. If you go 2 generations back, you see most of our grandmothers, great-grandmothers were not educated. The education was not common in that generation, but they produced educated generation.
Right.
So our fathers were educated, and now they educated us. So, you know, I think education is important. It polishes your skills, but then we cannot generalize that if you are an educated person, you are an empowered woman. So
I think education is just one of the prerequisites.
Just one of the prerequisites, probably one of the attributes, I would say. But I have seen uneducated women also making a difference.
Right.
I
think it's all in the mind.
Absolutely. So my giveaway would be that believe in yourself. You are unique. You are beautiful. No matter your age, no matter your position, no matter your educational level, you are unique, and you have to and believe in your dreams. It doesn't cost a penny to see a dream,
right.
to have a wish, and work towards it. And you have to be courageous and believe in yourself that you can achieve it. Once the attitude is there, then nothing is
that's very rightly
reach.
put. I think you need to have the right attitude and
Absolutely.
the right mindset.
Absolutely.
And Justice Sahiba, coming towards you and coming towards the conclusion of the show, my last question to you would be that you are such a big inspiration for all us women, you know, out there. So what would your concluding message be with regards to all the working women who are watching this show, that, you know, what are the do's and what are the don'ts of being a successful working women in Pakistan?
Well, the first thing I would advise women is that they have to be courageous. Because if a woman has the courage to speak for herself, to take on a responsibility, then she will be able to achieve what she really wants to. The other thing women should remember is that they have to work twice as hard in order to be recognized that they are doing the same kind of work that the men are doing. And the recognition comes by the fact that the more effort they put in, the more recognition they will get. And that is a very important aspect. And third is that women need to encourage other women.
Right.
Sometimes you see that women are not that much encouraging for other women. If they have made it to a space, they don't really feel that it is important that other women should follow suit, but that must always be done. So they have to be bold, they have to be courageous, they have to encourage women into the workplace. And the other thing is that they should be not aggressive, not have an aggressive attitude. When you are working along with men, you always have to have a cooperative attitude and feel that you are along with them as co-workers, and not that you are trying to deprive them, because that is what the men fear. They feel they might be driven out of their jobs, and that's why women have to be careful in making it obvious that it is not that they have come to drive them out, it's only to help them. These are the 4 messages, I think, which every woman should be aware of, and the best way is to put it across on the electronic media, and particularly on the radio, which is available on the telephone everywhere. Of course, now with smartphones, you also have YouTube, so there's no reason that women cannot be made aware of their own situation, and also the men, increase the awareness of men regarding the participation of women.
Right, madam, your point is noted. Thank you so much, Dr. Sahiba. Thank you so much, Ms. Lubna, and thank you so much, Justice Sahiba, for being here with us today.
Thank you very much. It was a player participating in this program along with Simi Bukhari and Lubna Bhayat. And I'm always so happy to see that women have ventured forth into those areas and those spaces which were not occupied by women in my time. Particularly Fatma Shaheen deserves special thanks from us all. She's always very enterprising and encouraging to women and makes it a point to see that the women who come to the show are given the maximum opportunity to express whatever they feel.
Thank you so much, madam. Well, to conclude today's show, we generally spoke about the changing work trends, especially regards to female labor participation in our workforce today. We discussed the law which the government has recently passed regarding harassment, how it gives Pakistani women working, protections which it never did before. We also generally spoke about, the landmark elevation of Justice Aisha Malik to the highest court in Pakistan, which of course in itself is a very big move towards women empowerment too. But in order to ensure that this is a practice which continues, in order to ensure that we do have women in the workforce and they also continuously strive to go all the way up there, we need to ensure that we actually make the system enabling for them to do the same. We need to let go of the social, cultural as well as the structural barriers which do exist, unfortunately, to impede a woman's fundamental right to work. And in this, we need to understand as a society that a woman who is working is just not working for a family. The way she is working is something that is not only benefiting the economy, it is also something which is equally beneficial for the society at large. On that note, signing off for today. Until next time, take care and Allah Hafiz.